desert doesn't forgive mistakes. It swallows them whole, buries them under sand and silence, and moves on like nothing ever happened. Staff Sergeant Maya Reeves understood this better than most. She had learned it the hard way. Through countless hours spent lying motionless under the relentless sun, her eye pressed against a scope, her breath controlled to the rhythm of her heartbeat, the desert taught patience. It taught precision, and most importantly, it taught that the loudest voice in the room is rarely the most dangerous one. Maya grew up in Billings, Montana, where the landscape stretched endlessly in every direction, much like the deserts she would come to know so intimately. Her father ran a small ranch, and her mother worked as a nurse at the local hospital. Life was simple, structured, and predictable. Maya was the middle child of 5, often overlooked in the chaos of a large family. She learned early on that silence could be a superpower. While her siblings fought for attention, Maya observed. She watched. She listened. Her grandfather, a Korean War veteran, was the first person to put a rifle in her hands. She was 12 years old, barely tall enough to hold the weapon properly, but something clicked the moment she looked through the iron sights. Her grandfather noticed it immediately. "You've got the eye," he told her, his weathered face breaking into a rare smile. "Not everyone has it. Don't waste it." She didn't. Through high school, Maya excelled in track and field, her slim build and endurance making her a natural distance runner. But her real passion remained shooting. She joined the school's rifle team and dominated every competition she entered. Coaches from colleges across the country sent recruitment letters, offering full scholarships. Her parents assumed she'd take one, study something practical, maybe become a veterinarian or an engineer. Instead, 3 days after graduation, Maya walked into an Army recruiting office and enlisted. Her parents were devastated. Her siblings were confused. But Maya had made up her mind. She had read every book she could find about military snipers, studied their tactics, memorized their philosophies. She knew the statistics. Less than 1% of soldiers ever qualified as snipers, and even fewer made it through the grueling selection process. The odds didn't intimidate her. They motivated her. Basic training at Fort Benning was exactly what she expected. Brutal, exhausting, and designed to break the weak. Maya thrived. While other recruits complained about the heat, the lack of sleep, and the relentless drill sergeants, Maya remained silent and focused. She didn't make friends easily, but she earned respect through competence. When the obstacle course times were posted, her name was always near the top. When marksmanship scores were announced, hers were consistently perfect. But respect in basic training didn't translate to respect in the specialized units. When Maya volunteered for the U.S. Army Ranger School, the reaction was immediate and predictable. Laughter, disbelief, outright dismissal. "You serious?" asked Sergeant First Class Derek Holloway, the senior instructor reviewing her application. He was a towering figure, 6'4" with arms like tree trunks and a chest full of medals earned in Iraq and Afghanistan. He looked at Maya like she was a child who had wandered into the wrong building. "Yes, Sergeant," Maya replied, her voice steady. Holloway leaned back in his chair, exchanging glances with the other instructors in the room. One of them, a wiry man with a scar running down his cheek, snorted. "Ranger School ain't a place for people who like to stay quiet and out of sight, soldier. It's loud. It's violent. It's chaos." "I understand, Sergeant." "Do you?" Holloway leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "Because from where I'm sitting, you look like someone who'd be better suited for a desk job. Maybe intelligence, maybe logistics, not kicking down doors with the Rangers." Maya held his gaze. "With all due respect, Sergeant, I'm not interested in kicking down doors. I'm interested in making sure the people who do come home alive." The room went silent. Holloway studied her for a long moment, then shook his head. "Fine. You want to try? Go ahead. But when you wash out, and you will wash out, don't come crying about how unfair it was." Maya didn't respond. She simply nodded, turned, and walked out. Ranger School was hell. There was no other word for it. The physical demands were inhuman. 20-hour days filled with obstacle courses, forced marches carrying over 100 pounds of gear, and live fire exercises that left no room for error. The mental strain was worse. Sleep deprivation turned everything into a haze of exhaustion and pain. Instructors screamed constantly, designed to break concentration and simulate the chaos of combat. Maya struggled. There was no denying it. Her body, lean and efficient, wasn't built for the sheer brute force required in some of the exercises. During the rope climb, she watched men twice her size scale the obstacle in seconds while she fought for every inch. During combatives training, she was thrown around like a rag doll by opponents with 50 pounds on her. But she didn't quit. Every time she fell, she got back up. Every time someone laughed, she ignored it. And slowly, something began to shift. The other candidates started to notice that while Maya might not be the fastest or the strongest, she never gave up. When others were collapsing from exhaustion, Maya kept moving. When morale was at its lowest, Maya remained calm and focused. The turning point came during the land navigation exercise. Each candidate was given a map, a compass, and a set of coordinates deep in the Georgia wilderness. They had 12 hours to reach all checkpoints and return to base. It was designed to be nearly impossible, especially in the dark. Maya finished in 8 hours. Not only that, she had taken the most efficient route possible, avoiding obstacles and maximizing speed without sacrificing accuracy. When she walked into the operations center, covered in mud and scratches but moving with purpose, the instructors were stunned. "How the hell did you do that?" one of them asked. Maya shrugged. "I read the terrain, planned the route before I started, adjusted as needed." It was the first time anyone in the school looked at her with something other than skepticism. But it wasn't enough. She still had to prove herself in the one area that mattered most: marksmanship under pressure. The sniper qualification course was brutal. Candidates had to demonstrate proficiency at distances ranging from 300 to over 1,000 meters, in conditions that varied from broad daylight to complete darkness. They had to factor in wind speed, temperature, humidity, and elevation. A single miscalculation meant failure. Maya didn't miss. Not once. Every shot found its mark with mechanical precision. She adjusted for variables so quickly that instructors thought she was guessing. She wasn't. She had spent years developing an intuitive understanding of ballistics, wind drift, and environmental factors. Where others relied on formulas and calculations, Maya relied on instinct honed through thousands of hours of practice. When the final scores were posted, her name was at the top. Not near the top. At the top. Above every male candidate in the program. Sergeant Holloway pulled her aside after the results were announced. "I was wrong about you," he said simply. "You've got something most of these guys will never have. You've got patience. And in the sniper world, patience is everything." Maya nodded. "Thank you, Sergeant." "Don't thank me yet," Holloway said, his expression serious. "Graduating Ranger School is one thing. Proving yourself in the field is another. And trust me, the field is a whole different animal." He was right. Maya's first deployment was to Afghanistan, embedded with a Ranger battalion conducting counterinsurgency operations in the Helmand province. The landscape was unforgiving: rocky mountains, narrow valleys, and villages where every shadow could hide an enemy combatant. The Taliban had been operating in the region for years, and they knew the terrain better than anyone. Maya was assigned to a sniper team led by Staff Sergeant Liam Cross, a veteran with 3 tours under his belt and a reputation for being one of the best long-range shooters in the Army. Cross was everything Maya wasn't: loud, aggressive, and fiercely protective of his team. When he found out his new spotter was a woman fresh out of Ranger School, he was less than thrilled. "Nothing personal," Cross said when they first met, "but this is a combat zone, not a training exercise. I need someone who can keep up." "I'll keep up," Maya replied. Cross smirked. "We'll see." Their first mission together was a reconnaissance operation overlooking a suspected Taliban supply route. The team hiked for 6 hours through mountainous terrain, carrying over 80 pounds of gear each. By the time they reached their observation point, a rocky outcrop with a clear view of the valley below, Maya was exhausted but refused to show it. They set up their hide site, a carefully camouflaged position designed to blend seamlessly with the environment. Cross took the primary shooting position while Maya acted as his spotter, using high-powered optics to scan for targets and provide range estimates. For the first 3 days, nothing happened. They lay motionless for hours at a time, eating cold rations and sleeping in shifts. The heat was oppressive during the day, dropping to freezing temperatures at night. Cross grumbled constantly, but Maya remained silent, her eyes never leaving the valley below. On the fourth day they spotted movement, a convoy of 3 trucks moving slowly along the dirt road. Maya immediately began calculating distance, wind speed, and trajectory. Range? Cross asked. 840 meters, Maya replied. Wind from the east at 5 knots. Temperature 92 degrees. Adjust 2 mils right, 1 mil up. Cross made the adjustments and waited. The lead truck stopped, and several armed men climbed out. Through the scope, Maya could see they were carrying weapons and ammunition crates. Confirmed hostile activity, Cross said into the radio, requesting permission to engage. Permission granted, came the reply. Make it count. Cross exhaled slowly, his finger resting lightly on the trigger. The shot rang out, echoing across the valley. The first target dropped instantly. Chaos erupted below as the remaining fighters scrambled for cover. Cross fired again, then again, each shot finding its mark with ruthless efficiency. Reloading, Cross said, pulling back from the rifle. Maya didn't hesitate. She slid into the shooting position, her movements smooth and practiced. Through the scope, she saw a fighter attempting to flank their position, moving through the rocks below. She adjusted for distance and wind, exhaled, and squeezed the trigger. The fighter collapsed. Nice shot, Cross said, genuine respect in his voice. That mission was the first of many. Over the next 6 months, Maya and Cross worked together seamlessly, conducting operations that ranged from surveillance to direct action. Maya's reputation grew with each successful mission. She was calm under pressure, accurate beyond belief, and utterly fearless when it mattered most. But it wasn't until the incident near Kandahar that Maya truly proved what she was capable of. The mission was supposed to be routine, a joint operation with a ranger platoon to clear a village suspected of harboring Taliban leadership. Intelligence suggested the village was lightly defended, with most of the fighters having moved to a different location. The plan was simple: secure the village, gather intelligence, and extract before sunset. It all went wrong in the first 5 minutes. The platoon walked into a carefully prepared ambush. Explosions ripped through the lead vehicles as IEDs detonated, killing 3 rangers instantly and wounding a dozen more. Enemy fire erupted from every direction: rooftops, windows, alleyways. The rangers were pinned down, unable to advance or retreat. Maya and Cross were positioned on a ridge overlooking the village, nearly 1,000 meters away. From their vantage point, they could see the entire battlefield, but they were too far to provide effective covering fire with standard rifles. "We need to get closer," Cross said, already packing up their gear. "No time," Maya replied, her voice cold and focused. She was scanning the village through her scope, identifying targets with mechanical precision. "They'll be overrun in minutes if we don't act now." Cross hesitated. "Maya, we're talking about shots at over 1,000 meters in urban terrain. That's borderline impossible. It's necessary." Maya settled into position, her body completely still despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. She identified the first target, a machine gunner on a rooftop pouring fire into the trapped rangers below. Distance, 1,050 meters. Wind, variable, gusting from multiple directions due to the village layout. Temperature, high 90s. Humidity, low. She made the calculations in seconds, adjusted the scope, and fired. The machine gunner dropped. The rangers below immediately used the opportunity to reposition, but the enemy fire continued from multiple locations. Maya didn't stop. She moved from target to target with ruthless efficiency, each shot carefully planned and executed. A sniper in a bell tower, an RPG operator preparing to fire, a squad leader coordinating the ambush from a fortified position. One by one they fell. Cross watched in stunned silence, his job as spotter almost unnecessary. Maya was operating on pure instinct, reading the battlefield like a chess master seeing moves ahead. She wasn't just shooting, she was dismantling the enemy's entire tactical structure. "SOS from the ground team," the radio crackled. "Heavy casualties. Need immediate air support or we're done." "Air support is 15 minutes out," came the response. "Hold your position." 15 minutes might as well have been 15 hours. The Rangers didn't have that kind of time. Maya kept firing. Her ammunition was running low, but she didn't let that affect her focus. Every shot had to count. She targeted the fighters who posed the greatest threat first, then moved to secondary targets. The enemy began to realize they were being picked off by a sniper they couldn't locate, and panic started to set in. "They're breaking," Cross said, watching through his own optics. "They're actually breaking." He was right. The Taliban fighters, realizing they were being systematically eliminated by an unseen threat, began to retreat. Some abandoned their weapons and ran. Others tried to find cover but were cut down before they could reach safety. The ambush, so carefully planned and executed, was falling apart. By the time air support arrived, the battle was over. The Rangers had suffered casualties, but Maya's intervention had prevented a complete massacre. When the extraction helicopters landed and the wounded were loaded aboard, the platoon leader, Captain James Hendricks, climbed the ridge to meet the sniper team. "Who the hell was shooting?" he demanded, his face covered in dust and blood. Cross nodded toward Maya. "She was." Hendricks stared at her for a long moment, then extended his hand. "You saved my men's lives today. I don't care who you are or where you came from. You're a damn hero." Maya shook his hand. "Just doing my job, sir." "Bullshit," Hendricks said. "What you did out there, I've never seen anything like it. Shots at that distance, in those conditions, under that kind of pressure? That's not just skill. That's something else entirely." Word of the engagement spread quickly through the military community. Maya's actions near Kandahar became the stuff of legend, the quiet sniper who single-handedly turned the tide of a desperate battle. She was awarded the Silver Star for Valor, one of the highest honors in the U.S. military. But Maya didn't care about medals or recognition. She cared about the Rangers who made it home because of her actions. She cared about the letters she received from their families, thanking her for saving their sons, husbands, and brothers. Those letters meant more to her than any ceremony or award ever could. Her second deployment was to Syria, where the mission parameters were even more complex. The enemy wasn't a traditional military force, but a decentralized network of extremist fighters operating in urban environments. Rules of engagement were stricter, collateral damage was unacceptable, and every shot had to be justified and documented. Maya was assigned to a joint task force working alongside Delta Force operators conducting high-value target missions. The pace was relentless, multiple operations per week, often with less than an hour's notice. The stress was immense and turnover was high. Snipers burned out quickly in that environment, unable to handle the constant pressure and the moral weight of their decisions. Maya didn't burn out. If anything, she became sharper. She developed an almost supernatural ability to read situations, to identify threats before they materialized, to make split-second decisions that saved lives. Her call sign became Ghost, not because she was invisible, but because she moved through the battlefield like a phantom, striking without warning and disappearing before anyone could react. One mission in particular stood out. The target was a high-ranking ISIS commander operating out of a densely populated neighborhood in Raqqa. Intelligence indicated he would be meeting with several lieutenants in a building surrounded by civilian residences. The window for action was narrow, less than 30 minutes from the time he arrived until he left. The task force infiltrated the city under cover of darkness, moving through abandoned buildings and rubble-strewn streets. Maya set up her position on the third floor of a bombed-out apartment complex, her rifle trained on the target building 200 meters away. "Visual on target," she whispered into her radio, confirming identity now. Through her scope, she could see the commander entering the building, flanked by armed guards. Behind him, she saw something that made her stomach drop. A woman carrying a small child, likely a civilian forced to stay in the building for cover. "Civilian presence confirmed," Maya reported. "Child in the structure? Recommend abort." "Negative," came the response from command. "Target is priority 1. Window is closing. Take the shot when you have it." Maya's finger rested on the trigger, but she didn't fire. The commander was standing near a window, a clear shot. But the angle was wrong. If she missed by even an inch, the bullet could penetrate the wall and hit the woman or child behind him. "Ghost, do you copy? Take the shot." Maya ignored the order. She watched, waited, calculated. The commander moved away from the window, deeper into the room. The guards repositioned, and then, for just a moment, the commander stepped into a perfect position, isolated, with a clear backdrop and no risk of collateral damage. Maya fired. The commander dropped. The guards panicked, scrambling for cover. The woman with the child ran from the building unharmed. "Target eliminated," Maya reported. "Civilian safety confirmed. Exfil route clear." Back at base, Maya was called into a debriefing with the task force commander, Colonel Raymond Marks. He was a hard man, a career soldier with decades of experience and little patience for disobedience. "You delayed the shot," he said, his voice cold. "Yes, sir. I gave you a direct order to fire." "I heard the order, sir. But taking that shot at that moment would have risked civilian casualties. I waited for a better opportunity." Mark stared at her. "And if that opportunity hadn't come, if the target had left the building and we lost him, then we would have tried again, sir. But we wouldn't have killed the child in the process." The room was silent. Marks leaned back in his chair, his expression unreadable. "You know what the official policy is on situations like that, Sergeant?" "Yes, sir. Mission first." "That's right. Mission first. Not feelings, not morality. The mission." Maya met his gaze. "With all due respect, sir, if the mission requires us to kill children, then maybe it's not a mission worth completing." For a moment she thought he was going to have her court-martialed, but then Marks did something unexpected. He smiled. "You've got balls, Reeves. I'll give you that." He stood up and walked to the window, looking out over the base. "You know why snipers like you are so rare? It's not because of the skill. Plenty of people can shoot straight. It's because of the judgment. The ability to make the right call under impossible pressure. Most people don't have that. They follow orders, execute the mission, and let someone else worry about the consequences. But you take responsibility for every decision you make. That's dangerous. It's also why you're one of the best damn snipers I've ever worked with." Maya didn't know how to respond to that. Marks turned back to her. "I'm not going to reprimand you for delaying that shot. You made the right call. But understand this. Next time you disobey a direct order, you better be damn sure you're right. Because if you're wrong, it won't just be your career on the line. It'll be lives." "I understand, sir." "Good. Now get out of here. You've got another mission in 6 hours." Maya's reputation continued to grow. She completed 2 full deployments without a single shot resulting in civilian casualties, an almost unheard-of record in modern combat operations. Other snipers sought her out for advice. Commanders requested her specifically for high-risk missions. She became a case study at sniper schools, an example of what was possible when skill, judgment, and discipline came together. But Maya never let it go to her head. She remained the same quiet, focused soldier she had always been. She wrote letters home to her family, though she never told them the details of what she did. She mentored younger soldiers, teaching them not just how to shoot, but how to think. And she never forgot her grandfather's words, "You've got the eye. Don't waste it." After 3 deployments, Maya was promoted to Sergeant First Class and offered a position as an instructor at the U.S. Army Sniper School. It was a prestigious assignment, a chance to step back from the constant danger of combat and pass on her knowledge to the next generation. She accepted. Teaching was different from fighting, but in many ways, it was just as challenging. The students at Sniper School were already elite soldiers, Rangers, Special Forces, even some SEALs and Marines looking to refine their skills. They came in confident, sometimes arrogant, certain that they already knew everything they needed to know. Maya's job was to break that confidence and rebuild it into something stronger, humility backed by competence. Her teaching style was unconventional. She didn't yell or intimidate. She didn't need to. Instead, she challenged her students to think critically, to question their assumptions, to understand that being a sniper wasn't just about pulling a trigger. It was about patience, observation, and making decisions that others couldn't or wouldn't make. "Anyone can learn to shoot," she told her first class. "But not everyone can learn to wait. The best snipers aren't the ones with the fastest reflexes or the steadiest hands. They're the ones who can lie in the dirt for 18 hours without moving, waiting for a target that might never appear. They're the ones who can watch a battlefield unfold and understand it in ways others can't. That's what I'm here to teach you." One of her students, a cocky ranger named Private First Class Tyler Nash, scoffed. "With all due respect, Sergeant, I didn't come here to learn patience. I came here to learn how to take out targets." Maya looked at him calmly. "You want to take out targets? Fine. Tomorrow morning you and I are going on a field exercise. If you can spot me before I spot you, I'll recommend you for immediate graduation. But if I spot you first, you're going to run the obstacle course in full gear every morning for the rest of the training cycle." Nash grinned. "Deal." The next morning, Maya and Nash were dropped off in separate locations in the Georgia wilderness, each given a radio and basic supplies. The objective was simple: locate the other person without being located yourself. Nash lasted 40 minutes. He moved too fast, made too much noise, and underestimated how well Maya understood the terrain. She spotted him from 300 meters away, lying in a hide position so perfect that even seasoned instructors would have struggled to find her. When Nash returned to base, exhausted and humiliated, Maya was already there, calmly cleaning her rifle. "Still think patience isn't important?" she asked. Nash never questioned her again. In fact, he became one of her best students, eventually graduating at the top of his class. Maya taught at the sniper school for 2 years, shaping dozens of soldiers who would go on to serve with distinction in conflicts around the world. She received letters from her former students, thanking her for the lessons that had saved their lives or the lives of their teammates. Those letters joined the others she kept in a box under her bed, reminders of why she did what she did. But teaching, as fulfilling as it was, wasn't enough. Maya missed the field. She missed the clarity of purpose that came with a mission, the focus required in combat, the knowledge that her skills were making a direct difference. So when she was offered a chance to return to active duty as part of an elite sniper unit supporting Ranger operations worldwide, she accepted without hesitation. Her third deployment took her back to Afghanistan, but the country had changed. The Taliban had grown stronger, more organized, and more brutal. The rules of engagement had shifted. The mission parameters were looser, the objectives more ambiguous. It was a different kind of war, one without clear front lines or easy answers. Maya was attached to a Ranger battalion operating in the Kunar province, one of the most dangerous regions in the country. The terrain was mountainous and heavily forested, perfect for ambushes and guerrilla warfare. The enemy knew the area intimately, and they used that knowledge to devastating effect. The battalion suffered heavy casualties in the first month. IEDs, sniper attacks, and coordinated ambushes took a steady toll. Morale was low, trust was fragile. The Rangers needed someone to tip the balance back in their favor. That someone was Maya. Her first major operation in Kunar was a rescue mission. A 4-man reconnaissance team had been ambushed while conducting surveillance on a suspected Taliban training camp. 2 were dead, and the other 2 were trapped on a rocky hillside, surrounded by enemy fighters and running low on ammunition. Air support was unavailable due to weather conditions, and the nearest quick reaction force was over an hour away. The team had maybe 30 minutes before they were overrun. Maya and her spotter, a young ranger named Corporal Jason Ortiz, were inserted via helicopter onto a ridge overlooking the ambush site. The conditions were abysmal: heavy rain, poor visibility, and winds gusting up to 40 miles per hour. Most snipers wouldn't have even attempted shots in those conditions. Maya set up her rifle, adjusted for the weather, and began engaging targets. The first shot dropped a fighter preparing to throw a grenade. The second took out a machine gunner. The third, fourth, and fifth eliminated fighters attempting to flank the trapped Rangers. Each shot was a calculation, a gamble against the wind and rain, but Maya made them all count. "They're repositioning," Ortiz said, watching through his spotting scope. "Looks like they're trying to figure out where we are." "Let them try," Maya replied, already lining up her next shot. For 20 minutes, Maya held the enemy at bay single-handedly. She didn't just shoot, she controlled the battlefield. Every time the Taliban tried to advance, she cut them down. Every time they tried to retreat, she made sure they couldn't regroup. By the time the quick reaction force arrived, most of the enemy fighters were dead or fleeing, and the 2 trapped Rangers were still alive. The rescue was a success, but Maya didn't celebrate. She simply packed up her gear, boarded the helicopter, and returned to base. Captain Hendricks, the same officer she had saved near Kandahar years earlier, met her on the landing pad. He was now a major, second in command of the battalion. "You did it again," he said, shaking his head in disbelief. Maya shrugged. "Just doing my job, sir." "Reeves, when are you going to accept that what you do goes way beyond just doing your job? You're not human. You're a damn guardian angel." Maya smiled faintly. "Angels don't use rifles, sir." "Maybe they should." Over the next 6 months, Maya conducted over 40 missions, ranging from reconnaissance to direct action. She became a legend within the battalion, the quiet sniper who never missed, who could turn the tide of any battle, who saved lives with every shot she took. Soldiers requested her specifically for high-risk operations. Commanders built mission plans around her capabilities. But legends have a cost. The constant deployments, the endless violence, the weight of every decision. It all took a toll. Maya began to notice changes in herself. She had trouble sleeping. She startled at loud noises. She found herself calculating distances and wind speeds even when she was off duty, her mind unable to turn off the sniper's constant analysis. One night, after a particularly brutal mission, Maya sat alone in her quarters, staring at the rifle she had carried for so many years. It was a precision instrument, perfectly maintained, every part calibrated to perform flawlessly. But it was also a weapon, a tool designed for one purpose, to end lives. How many people had she killed? She didn't know. She had stopped counting after the first year, hundreds probably, maybe more. Every single one of them had been justified, legal, necessary. But justified or not, they were still dead. And she was the one who had killed them. She thought about her grandfather, the man who had given her the rifle and told her not to waste the gift. Would he be proud of what she had become? Or would he be horrified? Maya didn't have an answer. The next morning, she went to see the battalion chaplain, Captain Michael Rhodes. He was a kind man in his 50s, a former pastor who had joined the army late in life to serve soldiers in combat zones. "I don't know if I'm supposed to be here," Maya said as she sat down in his office. "Why not?" Rhodes asked gently. "Because I'm not religious. I don't pray. I don't believe in divine judgment or redemption or any of that." "Then why are you here?" Maya hesitated. "Because I don't know how to carry this anymore." Rhodes nodded. "The weight?" "Yeah. It's the hardest part of what you do," Rhodes said. "Taking a life, even in war, even when it's necessary, it changes you. And people like you, snipers, you carry it differently than most soldiers, because you see the face of the person you kill. You make the conscious decision to end their life. There's no heat of battle, no chaos, no excuse. Just you, the rifle, and the choice." Maya looked down at her hands. "Does it ever get easier?" "No," Rhodes said honestly, "but you learn to live with it. You remember why you did it. You remember the lives you saved. You hold on to the good you've done, even when it feels like it's drowning in the bad. And if that's not enough," Rhodes smiled sadly, "then you do what every soldier does. You keep going. Because the alternative is giving up, and you're not the kind of person who gives up." Maya returned to duty the next day, but something had shifted. She was still the same skilled, focused sniper, but now she was more deliberate about her choices. She questioned orders more often, pushed back when she thought a mission was unnecessarily risky, and refused to take shots unless she was absolutely certain they were necessary. Some commanders appreciated her caution. Others found it frustrating, but no one could argue with her results. Maya's record remained flawless. 0 civilian casualties, 0 missed targets, 0 compromised missions. Her final mission in Afghanistan came 6 months later. Intelligence had identified a high-value target, a Taliban commander responsible for coordinating attacks across multiple provinces. He was meeting with several subordinates in a remote compound near the Pakistani border. The mission was a joint operation involving Rangers, Special Forces, and air support. Maya was assigned as the Overwatch sniper, positioned on a mountain ridge overlooking the compound. Her job was to provide cover for the assault team and eliminate any threats that emerged during the raid. The operation began smoothly. The assault team breached the compound, clearing rooms with practiced efficiency. But then everything went wrong. A secondary group of fighters, undetected by intelligence, attacked from the rear, catching the Rangers in a deadly crossfire. "We're pinned down," the team leader shouted over the radio. "Multiple casualties. Need immediate support." Maya didn't hesitate. She began engaging targets with ruthless precision, prioritizing threats based on their position and firepower. One by one, the enemy fighters fell, but there were too many of them, and they were too close to the Rangers. She needed to get closer. "I'm moving," she told Ortiz. "What?" "Maya, you'll be exposed." "No choice." Maya grabbed her rifle and sprinted down the ridge, moving toward a position that would give her a better angle on the compound. Bullets kicked up dust around her as enemy fighters spotted her movement, but she didn't slow down. She reached cover, set up her rifle, and resumed firing. The tide of the battle shifted. With Maya in her new position, the enemy fighters were caught between two fields of fire. They tried to retreat, but Maya cut them off. They tried to hold their ground, but the assault team pushed forward. Within minutes, the compound was secure. But the cost was high. 3 Rangers were dead, and 5 more were wounded. The high-value target had been killed in the initial breach, but the secondary ambush had turned what should have been a clean operation into a bloody firefight. On the flight back to base, Maya sat in silence, staring out the helicopter window at the mountains below. She thought about the Rangers who had died, the families who would receive folded flags and heartfelt condolences. She thought about the enemy fighters she had killed, the lives ended by her decisions. And she thought about her grandfather's words one more time. "You've got the eye. Don't waste it." She hadn't wasted it. She had used her gift to save lives, to protect her fellow soldiers, to make a difference in a war that often felt meaningless and endless. But she had also taken lives, hundreds of them. And no matter how justified, no matter how necessary, that weight would stay with her forever. When Maya finally returned home after her 3rd deployment, she was awarded the Bronze Star for her actions during the final mission. She accepted the medal, shook hands with the generals, and smiled for the photos. But when the ceremony was over, she drove back to Montana, to the ranch where she had grown up, and sat on the porch with her aging mother. "Are you okay?" her mother asked. Maya thought about the question. Was she okay? She had survived 3 deployments in some of the most dangerous combat zones in the world. She had saved countless lives. She had earned the respect of her peers and the gratitude of the soldiers she had protected. By every measurable standard, she was a success. But was she okay? "I don't know," Maya admitted. "But I'm here, and that's enough for now." Her mother nodded, understanding without needing details. They sat together in silence, watching the sun set over the Montana landscape, the same landscape that had shaped Maya into the person she had become. Maya Reeves retired from active duty 2 years later, after a total of 15 years in the U.S. Army. She returned to Montana, bought a small piece of land, and built a life that was quiet, simple, and far removed from the chaos of war. She didn't talk about her service often. She didn't seek attention or recognition. She simply lived. But occasionally, late at night, she would sit on her porch with her grandfather's old rifle, the same one he had given her when she was 12 years old, and remember. She remembered the missions, the battles, the decisions. She remembered the soldiers she had saved and the enemies she had killed. She remembered the weight of responsibility and the clarity of purpose. And she remembered that silence, the kind she had learned in the desert, could be the most powerful weapon of all. There's a quote often shared among military snipers: "The most dangerous weapon in the world is a Marine with his rifle. The second most dangerous is a well-trained mind." Maya Reeves embodied both. Her story isn't just about marksmanship or combat effectiveness. It's about the quiet strength that comes from discipline, the courage required to make life-or-death decisions under impossible pressure, and the humanity needed to carry the weight of those decisions for a lifetime. Maya proved that heroism doesn't require a loud voice or a commanding presence. Sometimes the most powerful people are the ones who say the least and do the most. She earned her place among the elite not through arrogance or bravado, but through competence, integrity, and an unwavering commitment to protecting the lives of those who fought alongside her. Her legacy lives on in the soldiers she trained, the lives she saved, and the example she set. Because in the end, true strength isn't measured by how many enemies you defeat. It's measured by how many people you protect, how many lives you touch, and how much of your humanity you manage to hold on to, even in the darkest moments. If you believe that courage isn't about being the loudest person in the room, drop a comment saying honor and let us know where you're watching from.